This is Autoline After Hours with John McElroy.
And Gary Vasilash.
Episode 467 for June 6th of 2019. SAE AutoDrive Challenge, a new generation of autonomous engineers. So Gary, we got to let the crew watch and know where we're at right now.
Yeah, we're at M-City in Ann Arbor, which is an autonomous test facility with an amazing challenge that's going on here. This is Grand Prix weekend in Detroit, but this is, I think, where the action's actually happening.
Yeah, this is a collaboration between SAE and General Motors to create a new generation of autonomous engineers. The AutoDrive Challenge has got participation from 8 different universities. GM gave them electric bolts and said, go at it.
And
make these things autonomous.
And they're going at it in a big way, and they're using technology that is being used by commercial companies right now, and they're learning how they're going to be deploying this. So maybe in 10 years' time, we'll be driving, we won't be driving, we'll be passengers.
That's right. The future is being created here. And on today's show, we'll talk to the SAE to get more background about what this AutoDrive Challenge is all about. We'll be talking to a couple of the students about why they got involved and what they expect to get out of it. And we'll talk with Dan Nicholson from General Motors to explain why GM even got behind this project. And we'll be back right after this. Watch Autoline After Hours live at Autoline.tv every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 12 p.m. Pacific. You can subscribe to this podcast for free by searching for Autoline in iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, your journey, our passion. Lear, a global leader in automotive seating and electrical systems. And by Borg-Warner, propulsion solutions that support a clean, energy-efficient world.
So Gary, one thing about coming to this competition here, I feel like we're at a regular racetrack.
Yes, it's absolutely a Grand Prix weekend, and here we are with a Grand Prix for the autonomous students. It's
They've got the paddock, so let's go inside here.
Tech inspection over there.
And here's Chris Ciuca. He's the godfather of the program, or one of the godfathers.
Hey John, how are you?
Yeah,
Hi Gary.
Good seeing you.
Nice to see you.
So tell us about the Auto Challenge. How did it even start?
So AutoDrive started as a partnership between General Motors and SAE International, and what we were trying to do was develop content within university systems to produce 8 vehicles that operate at SAE J3016 Level 4 by the end of 3 years.
Which means?
So what we're doing is we're working on fully autonomous vehicles, but a safety driver included, of course. So that allows the safety driver to take over the vehicle if need be. So there will still be a steering wheel and pedals in these vehicles when we're done.
And the vehicles came from General Motors?
So the vehicles are a Chevy Bolt platform. They're
electric car.
Electric car, of course. They're all exactly the same vehicle as they came off the line. We sent them to the universities with no driver assist program, so there's no lane keep assist, nothing like that in the vehicle.
Because as you know, GM also builds its autonomous vehicle in the same plant, on the same plant, but this is not that at all.
This is not that at all. We sent them to the students as a bare bones Bolt, so that we could so the students could build the autonomous platform on top of that.
And how do they do that? I mean, are there other companies that are providing technology to help them along?
So partnership is key here, right? We, SAE has a long-standing history of building out these educational programs through things like Formula SAE, through things like Baja, and even the World in Motion program at the K-12 level. But we need the technical talent to be able to build on top of this. So, of course, General Motors with the vehicle and the mentorships of the programs that are going on, but then also, Intel provides the compute platform for the students. Continental provides the radar, Velodyne provides the LiDAR. So what we're doing is we're trying to get students to bring all these pieces together and make them work. So we're really focusing on software development here as much as we are in building the autonomous platform.
You established this competition. You opened it to anybody who wants to compete?
We opened it through an RFP process. The original
request for proposal, RFP.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. So we went out to these university systems with this structure and asked the universities to actually apply for us. So the goal was to set a very high standard of the universities that were participating. So really, when we went through the team that was reviewing those proposals, these teams were submitting proposals that were 300, 400, 500 pages long of content. We were looking at the staff structure within the university systems. Were they willing to bring the mechanical engineering department, the electrical engineering, and the computer engineering department, bring them all together to work in an integrated fashion to build the platform?
You've got 8 teams competing here. Could you have taken on more?
The goal was between 6 and 10, so we landed right in the middle. And these teams, through that process, these teams were the ones that were ready to go.
So you rejected a number of teams.
We did unfortunately need to reject them.
But again, you're setting a standard.
We're setting a standard.
For industry, you're not trying to just make everybody feel good here.
No, absolutely not. This is an extremely, that's why we're doing it over 3 years. This is an extremely challenging thing to do. That's why we don't have these on the roads yet. So this is new technology for the kids.
So Chris, you mentioned companies like Velodyne, for example. Okay, so they're providing commercially available product.
Yes.
Presumably this is so the students are able to work with real stuff rather than trying to put something together.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
But the key part you mentioned is developing the software and integrating this technology. Now, one of the things you also mentioned was the word mentor. So you have, who's the mentor?
So we have mentors from 3 different companies right now. Every single team has a General Motors mentor. They're a mentor that is assigned to the team to help with, they're the subject matter expert, right? They help with the structure and the interaction with the bolt and plugging the system into the bolt. They help with everything. These are students. They're undergraduate students, they're graduate students. They need some help. So that's that technical aspect. We also have mentors that go into the classrooms from MathWorks to help with mapping and simulation. We have mentors that go into the classrooms from Intel to help with the compute platform, and they're ready to go when we need that level of technical assistance.
Why did you make it a 3-year program? That's a lot of commitment.
It is a lot of commitment, but when you look at the sophistication of the challenge and the testing that we're doing, last year, it was straight line and static obstacles. When we get a chance to walk around the site, you'll see you'll see the built cars, you'll see the pedestrians, you'll see the deer. Everything was static, right? So we were looking at how can the students...
That was year 1, everything was
year
static.
1. Year 2, now we're dynamic. So we've actually custom built pedestrian sleds that are timed to collision. So if a vehicle is coming down to an intersection at 20 miles an hour, the sled's going to jump based on time to collision to that sled. If they're coming at...
Jump out in front of the car.
It's going to jump out in front of the car. It's going to cross through the intersection. And what we're doing is we're looking at how the team's infrastructure and how the team's system responds to that obstruction in the road.
So Chris, they're all Chevy Bolts.
Yes, sir.
They're using technology from companies that are commercially available, but this is not a spec series.
This is not a spec series. No.
So people are able to do things differently.
Yes, and you're able to adopt other things on the vehicle. So we're in the paddocks right now. You can see everything looks very. It's all the same equipment, supplies. Some teams have actually purchased other materials, but it's all the Intel compute platform. It's the Chevy Bolt. Teams are all cooling the systems differently. They're
so they have a big parts bin of different kinds of parts they can mix and match.
They can mix and match. Yeah, they purchase things like their cooling systems, but the big expensive stuff is what we're working through those partnerships to build out.
And I noticed the obvious thing is on top of the vehicles where they have different sensors.
Sure.
That the arrays look different from company team to team.
And you see a lot of things from year 1 where teams maybe had blind spots in LiDAR data acquisition or radar or cameras. You see a lot of a different design. So even though these are technically the same vehicles that we saw in Yuma last year at the testing grounds where we did year 1, there's the structure and the design is quite different now.
Okay, we're in year 2, year 3, what do they do?
Year 3 is a big secret.
Oh,
no,
really?
But we will get a little bit more dynamic. We'll be looking at, right now, we're dealing with the dynamics of moving parts. We'll be dealing with infrastructure connectivity. Right now, we as SAE and our scoring team, we control the interfaces of the light system, so we know where a vehicle is within 2 centimeters within M-City. And we know when the light systems are triggered, but we'll be looking in year 3 even into more connectivity, possibly connectivity within the infrastructure.
But you haven't announced the specifics
we have
of
not
that.
announced the
Now, is it
specifics
because you
of
don't
it.
know them yet yourselves, or is it that you don't want to give anybody advanced preparation?
Right now, we want the teams focused on year 2, on this competition. We do know the specifics. We're already well down the road of building the rule set. We know the location for next year, which will be actually a fun game that we'll play with the students a little bit later, and trying to figure that out through a scavenger hunt. So we have things planned through year 3, but it'll be a lot more dynamic, a lot more focus on connectivity, a lot more vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to infrastructure is really.
So you keep raising the bar of what they got to hit.
You have to, right? It's building up that system.
Are the team members the same team members? I mean, do they have to commit to 3 years, or can someone graduate out and get replaced by someone else? And can you grow the team enormously?
Yes. Yes to all. And we have one perfect example. One of the volunteers that is helping us out this year was actually the team captain for Kettering this year, and he's back as an alumni as an expert in supporting the team. Okay. So we have several alumni from last year that have come through. So some students, they're getting jobs immediately out of this program, but we want to try and keep them engaged.
Mm-hmm. What are they all doing right now in the paddock? Prepping for some event?
So right now, what they're prepping for is we're going to do the City Challenge today, which will be light recognition, stop or speed sign recognition. We'll have a straightaway where students will actually they'll take their systems out, put them in autonomous mode, and then up the straightaway on M-City, they'll have to achieve a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit and drop to a 15, and we'll do that all within a certain time frame. And they have to do that within 30 feet before the sign and after the sign. So we're measuring those types of pieces. They'll be doing stoplight recognition, which if you've ever seen the M-City infrastructure, it'll be an extra challenge because there are a lot of stoplights out there, and they have to know which ones to recognize and which ones to respond to from the vehicle.
These students are not just sitting around drinking coffee. They're busy, so it sounds like it takes a lot of last-minute preparation to get it ready to do these runs.
So, for example, if you look, Michigan State's car just left, but when they came in, what they did immediately was they dumped the data into their system. So these students are now looking at how they performed on the practice track, what the car did, how it responded to the environment.
Yeah, there's this team from Texas A&M. They're all sitting in there and they're working their computers and
absolutely.
There's uploading and downloading information.
Never a dull time. That's for sure.
What are we missing here, Chris? What should we be asking you that we haven't asked yet?
I think the only other piece that is really valuable to this program, and I think one of the things that we're most proud of, is the interaction between industry and the students. I mentioned earlier the mentoring. But we also run workshops throughout the year. So we take the student teams to Velodyne. We take the student teams to Continental. I'll tell a story about we were up at Continental a few months ago, and we're sitting in the classroom through the workshop with the mentors and with a select group of students. And their radar professionals are there, and it quickly turns into a calculus class between the students and the professionals that work on this stuff every day, and that's just absolutely invaluable. You can't do
It's no longer theoretical.
No,
now you're putting your hands on and making it happen.
It's real, and it's being done by people whose careers are committed to this stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the sponsors are getting a lot out of this too.
Yes, they are. Yeah, they're getting talent. That was one of our original goals as SAE, was when we looked at students that were coming out of the traditional university system, they were requiring 6 to 8 to sometimes more than a year of on-the-job training up front. we've taken that now through programs like the AutoDrive Challenge, and we push that on the job training down into the university system. So they're coming out, they're ready to go.
SAE is heavily committed to communication, or education, excuse me. You guys have a program called A World in Motion that is really what? Almost K through 12 kind of in its approach, right?
Pre-K.
Pre-K,
So
no
we're
kidding.
working with, and that's one of the things, we're going to do an event here tonight called STEM Night, where we'll have the A World in Motion, the AWIM kids out here looking at, because we're introducing them, we're pulling the mentors into those classrooms as well, but we're going to have those kids come out and look at these vehicles. And even though they're working with their jet toys, they're working with their fuel cell vehicles in the K-12 environment, we want them to see this. We're going to do a great interactive demonstration with actually Michigan Tech's car, where we'll have their LiDAR system hooked up to a video screen where kids will actually be able to see themselves in the LiDAR point cloud. So those types of interactions, putting them with the students and bringing everything together is essential.
And there's more beyond that. You have what you call Formula SAE, Formula Baja. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago we did Formula SAE. We had 120 unique universities on site at Michigan International Speedway. On Tuesday, when we leave here, we go to Rochester Institute of Technology for the Baja competition. So it's a very busy spring.
Which is an off-road
It's an off-road theme.
And the Formula SAE is what about all performance of a car, including fuel efficiency and emissions, right?
A complete build from the ground up. Right, so we see students are designing everything from the engines to the engine systems, and we're focusing on their design presentations, their cost presentations, and really building out those static events as well. So it's a business-like approach.
So in other words, it just isn't all about technology.
No.
This is about how you present yourself when you leave the university and have to go and meet with somebody from General Motors or Ford or whomever else to talk about what you can do and what you can provide to them.
That's right. So it's we run a social responsibility program here.
We better move or they're going to run us over. Run us over autonomously.
We run a part of the AutoDrive Challenge is a social responsibility report, and I say to the students that I want you to present this report as if you're getting my grandmother to sit in the front seat of this car to drive autonomously.
So you're trying to break down societal barriers to this happening, getting people comfortable, citizens as it were, comfortable with that.
That has to be part of it, right? We have to get the community aware and the community comfortable with this type of technology, because this technology, where it's scary to some, is ultimately going to save a lot of lives. When we take away driver distraction, when we take away all those extraneous things that we all do as humans in the car, the system doesn't take time off to look at the phone. So that's what's essential, that we're presenting those types of pieces as well.
So I'm wondering, Chris, you're dealing with the Baja and with the Formula SAE and with the AutoDrive Challenge.
Yes.
Okay, so 3 different types of technologies.
Right.
Do you find one is more appealing to students, that there are more kids want to get involved with one rather than the other? And if so, what is it?
It's funny that the reason that we do those is they're very different types of students participating in each of these. If you walk around this room, you're talking to a lot of electrical engineers, computer scientists engineers, there are mechanical engineers here. We're very heavy focused on the mechanical engineering side of things in a series like Baja. So they all have their different sects of the university setting that they're servicing. Yep.
Real good. I think it's time, Gary, you and I got to go talk to some of these students that are involved in the team.
Yeah, it's great.
Chris, thanks for your time. Very interesting. Kudos to SAE for what it's doing.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff. Lindsey Malson is a junior at Kettering University.
Yeah.
We've got your car. There it goes
on the
right
roll.
now.
Yeah, we're going to go out and hopefully do our dynamic events today. So that's a really exciting part of the competition. It's always cool seeing the car being able to move autonomously.
So Lindsey, what is your role on this team?
So on this team, I'm on the mapping team and the management team. So this year, after year 1, we put in a management structure so we could have managers and technical leads for projects so we can make sure everything got done on time. And then I worked on the mapping challenge, which we had to create a database from the map from here and do a mapping display on a computer.
Talk a little bit more about the mapping, especially for people who don't know anything about autonomous technology. This isn't Google Earth, right? This is beyond that.
Yeah, this is a little bit beyond Google Earth. So you can think of it like as a Google Maps, but with more functions and more information coming to the information of the driver. Actually, in year 3, we're going to have a lot of mapping come into play. We're actually going to have to enter the address into our vehicle, and it's going to go to that specific point.
So you said you used the word driver. Now, you probably used the word driver in a way that John and I wouldn't ordinarily use the word driver.
The driver's not actually going to be driving the car because it's autonomous, but we do have a driver and a safety person sitting in the car, and they're hands off, feet off, everything's just moving itself. They're just in there for safety purposes.
So the computer system is the driver,
the
in effect.
The computer system is like the brain of our car, and
Right.
it's the one functioning everything.
Right.
And go back to the mapping. Is this what they call 3D mapping? Are you triangulating to lampposts and trees and rocks and all that kind of thing?
So right now for year 2, we did a 2D map. So we had a map of the US, and we actually went from point A to point B with the route. In year 3, we're going to be using the waypoints more dynamically, and we're going to be triangulating the path and then also accounting for construction. They're going to block off our optimal paths and roads, so we're going to have to reroute and deal with that.
What got you into this program, the AutoDrive? How did you even find out about it, and what made you say, I want to be part of this?
So I was actually involved with FIRST Robotics for 5 years, so I've been involved with that
So in
since
high
8th
school,
grade.
you were involved
In high school, I was involved with FIRST Robotics, and I always loved the autonomous portion. I really liked programming, and I learned to program in Java a lot of years ago. So to be able to apply it to industry now and be working on autonomous vehicles, it's definitely been one of my passions. And I really enjoy focusing on like the mapping or something that a person wouldn't necessarily think goes into the autonomous car, but the GPS waypoints are one of our strongest points of data and one of our most accurate forms of autonomous.
Most people, I think, that think of a map in a car, think of their Garmin system, right?
Yeah.
But what you're working on is light years beyond that sort of a thing.
So we actually have GPS location points, and we're going to follow those for our paths. Most people think of like, oh yeah, Google Maps is just a map and a route, but there's also like GPS points, and we're going to be able to have the accuracy to know if we're in the lane, if we're over the lane a little bit, if our wheels are centered in the lane. So it's definitely an exciting future.
So you don't necessarily need to see anything. So there's always this discussion of, okay, what if the lines on the road are covered with snow? You would still be able to locate the car and know where it was in space without seeing anything.
So as long as it's not too cloudy, which we're actually working on improving the GPS location based on the weather. But if the lane lines are faded or whatever, we're still going to have the GPS mapping points that actually give us the data to say, okay, yeah, you're centered in your lane, you're not going to interfere with any other traffic.
So what sets Team Kettering apart from these other 7 teams?
So one really interesting fact about our team is we have a rotation program through our school where we're rotating every 3 months between work and school. So I'm actually employed at GM right now, and I'm working on autonomous vehicles there. So it's really nice because we have the opportunity to apply what we're learning in the classroom, apply it to industry, and also apply it to this challenge at the same time. So it's a really nice wrapper between school and work, and seeing everything to come together in a competition is really great.
So you're still a student, though. You're not a ringer for General Motors here. You're not.
Yeah, I'm still a student. I'm actually a junior right now. So I'll be looking for full-time positions summer 2021, which is still a few years away. So I'll be here through the rest of the competition.
So if anybody's watching the 2021, you're going to be out on the job market here and. Learned to code Java a long time ago, right?
Yeah,
it's impossible. You're too young to have that happen. But
Lindsey, what did you hope to get out of this program, and is it delivering on what you hoped?
This program is definitely one of the best competitions I've been involved in. I've always wanted to develop technologies, especially autonomous. I've always had the love for programming, and everybody's like, oh, I want to build the car, I want to do machining. And I've been like, give me a computer and connect me to some sensors, and let's go, let's make this autonomous. And I'm really interested in making the sensors roll into a safer environment for autonomous vehicles, especially with like lane change assist or blind spot detection. Everything we can do to make it safer on the road is one of my personal goals.
So what has been exciting to you? I mean, here we are, you've traveled to come here from Flint, people have come from Texas and so on. I mean, two things. Is there camaraderie among the teams? You guys all get together and swap war stories? And what are some surprising things that have happened to you, team-wise?
So team-wise, we actually...
There's another car coming in, let's move forward. But yeah, keep talking.
So team-wise, we actually had a little bit of a problem on Monday. We had a hardware dysfunction in our computer. So we actually have, within 4 days, replaced our computer, and now we're up and running doing all our software tests and everything. But we actually Intel shipped a new computer to us, so we actually have a whole new computing platform in the car, so that was definitely a hurdle to overcome. And then as far as collaborating with other teams, we do talk to the other teams a lot. I want to focus more on getting a collaboration or some type of scrimmage set up for year 3, because we actually at Kettering have the Research Mobility Center sponsored by GM, and it's a whole test pad that we can invite other universities or other teams to. Maybe we can have some sort of like scrimmage, do a few tests, and make sure everybody gets time to test a vehicle before they come to competition.
Well, look, we want to talk with another student. We've got a guy over here, but come along with us too, because we still have more things we'd like to talk to you about. We got Keenan here. Keenan Burnett, right?
Yes.
Okay. Keenan, good to have you.
Good.
And University of Toronto in
That's
this
right.
case, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you some of the same questions I asked Lindsey, because I want to know what got you into this program. How did you learn about it, and why did you say I want to sign up?
Yeah, I was nearing the end of my undergrad, and I was looking for something to do. I could either get a job, and I heard about this competition that was coming up. So I shot an email at the supervisor for the project, and I asked them, do you need somebody to run this thing? Like, I have some experience like running student teams. And he said, you know what? We do. Do you want to come in for an interview? And then that's what started like this whole process for the team.
What's your undergraduate degree in?
I did engineering science at the University of Toronto, specializing in electrical and computer engineering.
And your specific role on the team here is?
So I'm the team lead for all of aUToronto.
That means the boss.
Yeah, I'm the boss, yeah. I also specialize in the perception side, so taking the cameras, the LiDAR and other sensors and processing that to get kind of a high-level abstraction of the environment around the vehicle.
How many members are on your team?
Right now we have just over 100 members on the team.
Wow, unbelievable.
Lindsey, how many do you have?
We have about 40.
40.
I should say of the most active people, that's about the same, like about 30 or 40 active members, and then our roster has over 100 people, but you know.
So the ones that are not hands-on, that core 40, what do they sort of do? Stand around, watch you guys?
Right. No, they still, some of them still contribute quite a bit, but some of the people might prefer to stay downtown or work from home and that kind of thing. And yeah, you really can't be a huge part of the team unless you come out regularly and you're actually physically in the vehicle and doing that kind of thing.
So, an interesting, you're all students.
Right.
Presumably you still have to go to class.
Yeah.
So, when do you do this?
Yeah, so that's right. So we meet on a weekly basis, like we come in on Saturdays, so that's when most of the undergraduate students will come in. So myself, I'm able to work on this full time because I'm a graduate student, so I'll be working on the vehicle like Monday to Friday, kind of 9 to 5 kind of thing.
Here, walk.
Yeah.
Keep talking. Come on along, Lindsey. We'll get another shot of the car here. So, Keenan, you're committed for the 3 years?
We'll see. It's been a blast so far, and I kind of want to see it through to the very end. We're hoping to get a repeat win this year. It'd be great to get it for all 3 years.
So you guys won year one?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
came in first place last year.
All right, so I've got to ask, this thing up there spinning,
Yes.
The spinning doohickey.
what is that?
Right, so just like all the other teams, the spinning doohickey is a 3D LiDAR. So I'm not sure if she explained it, but it has 64 lasers that are arranged in kind of a jazz hands configuration. And that's spinning
Jazz
at,
hands, this is good, I like that.
That's spinning at 10 times per second, and so each laser is sending out pulses. It's measuring how long it takes for that pulse to come back, and then that gives us a 3D cloud of points around the vehicle so we can detect where pedestrians, cars, and traffic signs are.
But Lindsey, sorry, go
I was
ahead.
going to say, yours is not giant
so
and spinning like this one.
Ours is not as big. We have a smaller version of the LiDAR, mainly because we wanted to use our computing platform to process other information as well with the cameras and the radars. But we do use our LiDAR for pedestrian detection as well. It still scans the same way his does. His just bigger.
So, as we learned earlier, you guys have sort of a big parts bin of different types of LiDARs and radars
Yeah,
and
for
computers
sure.
and all that. How, Keenan, did you guys determine what parts were coming out of the bin? Is that your decision, or how do you work that?
Right. We kind of tried to pick the best possible sensors that we could get, so that's kind of why we went with that one.
Because that one's pretty expensive, right?
Right.
What's
So,
that, $8,000 or $5,000, something like that?
More like 100.
No, $100,000?
Yeah.
Yowza.
Yeah, so I mean...
So the car is the cheap part of this project.
Kinda, yes. I mean, the Chevrolet Bolt is less than half the price of the LiDAR. Yeah. But we wanted to pick the sensors that would make the system the safest and also give us the greatest capability. You know, we wanted to treat this as more of a robotics project rather than an automotive project. So we're kind of trying to pick the sensors that gave us the most capability to try and do as many things as possible. And so that's kind of how we landed with the sensors that we did.
So, Lindsey, what was the strategy at Kettering then? And what led you guys to choose the way that you went?
So we have one LiDAR on the front, and we actually have a panel on the back, so it doesn't collect the data behind our vehicle. We're only looking forward to look at the pedestrians or other cars that could be in our path.
Because this challenge didn't require you to look backward.
This challenge didn't require us to look backward. Year 3, May? I am not particularly sure, but if we do end up needing the back data, we'll have it. But the reason we put the hatch panel on was so we would have less data processing to do on the computing platform.
So, you know, these are electric cars, and I see some of them are plugged in, and I mean, is there a tremendous draw on the amount of energy in the battery as you turn on these computers?
So
I mean, I've been in electric cars and I've turned on the
Right,
HVAC
right.
and I've said, whoo, there goes the range.
So we're running off of the auxiliary power module in the vehicle, and so we're kind of limited to 1 kilowatt of power. And so the Chevrolet Bolt's battery is actually about, I think, between 50 and 60 kilowatts. So you could run all of our sensors at maximum power for over 50 hours, and it would still be running. And you know, if you compare that to the climate control system, so either heating in the winter or cooling in the summer, that's probably closer to like 5 kilowatts. So 5 times all of our stuff combined. Yeah.
I got to believe that at some point you guys are going to be interested in how do you take down the cost of LiDAR, or would that be something that you would be interested in working on? Maybe not so much for you. You just want to work on the compute side of it, right?
I mean, for sure, our team does focus on finding the cost reduction purposes in all the sensors, because the sensors are kind of turning out to be more than the actual vehicle cost. But we want to make sure it's also appealing to the industry and the consumers wanting the vehicles. Usually if they see a huge LiDAR on top of the vehicle, they're like, oh, okay, like I know that's autonomous, but our team kind of focused on making a slick, subtle design, so you wouldn't necessarily know it's any different from an actual vehicle on the road.
So are you two convinced that we will have level 4 autonomy in a reasonably short period of time?
Define reasonably short period of time.
Are you talking 5, 10 years, 15?
So I mean, we
Let's
know
say
that,
10 years.
I'd
I
say
think-
10 years,
Yeah,
yes.
I'd be confident in 10 to 15 years for sure.
Okay, and will this be like rolling around Disney World, geofenced?
No.
You have all the GPS data. I mean, you know everything. Or will this be driving from Ann Arbor to downtown Detroit?
I mean, I think in urban areas it's going to be a little bit harder to get our level 4 autonomous vehicles implemented. But if we're talking like in cities or ride-sharing platforms, I think this is definitely going to come maybe in even about 5 years.
Well, I would say it's already started.
It's already started, but I think it's gonna become more of a normal thing. I'd say in about 5 years, people are gonna start just getting in autonomous cars, and hopefully through this challenge and everything, we want to prove to them that autonomous vehicles are safe, and that's why I'm working in active safety, because a lot of people are worried about how it's going to perform, what is it going to do in this situation, and we're coming up with all the what ifs and the solutions in this competition, which is a great opportunity.
Keenan, is she optimistic with this 5 years? Or?
No, that sounds about right. I mean,
sounds about right.
I think lots of companies are overly optimistic about having it in 2020, which is just around the corner. I think there are lots of companies that are trying to roll out their systems maybe too soon. Some companies are trying to get away without using LiDAR. So kind of the approach that our team has taken is that we wanted to build the safest system possible. So that involves having the best possible sensors. And that is going to kind of slow down how long it takes before we can miniaturize this into consumer vehicles. Because the very first thing that you're going to see is like these robotic taxis that might cost a lot of money. But I think that before we let these things out on the road, we just want to make sure that they're as safe as possible. But,
all right, so let me ask you a slightly different but related question, okay? You know, we talked about how that thing costs $100,000, and I mean, even the smaller ones I'm sure cost a considerable amount of money. Do you guys expect that in 10 years that you will own private vehicles, or will these vehicles just be so full of computers and sensors that it'll be completely unaffordable?
I guess there's two answers to this question. Is it like me personally and then people in general? I feel like vehicle ownership in general is changing quite a bit. Already in downtown Toronto, plenty of people don't own vehicles. They'll just call an Uber. And so if in a few years that Uber becomes a robotic taxi, I feel like even fewer people are going to not want to own their own vehicle. I guess me personally, it'll depend on whether or not I am working or I'm still a graduate student.
Become a professional student. Speaking of that, when you ultimately do graduate, would you go into the auto industry? And I'm asking because you said you're approaching this, University of Toronto is, as a robotics project, not an automotive project. Does the automotive industry hold any appeal to you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of interesting partnerships happening right now between these newer tech companies that are coming up and the traditional automotive companies. So I think that those, to me, are going to be the most appealing places to work, where they have both like the experience from these traditional automotive companies, as well as the young and fresh ideas coming from these startups that are paving the way.
And Lindsey, same question to you. You're sort of interning at GM right now, but the auto industry hold appeal to you?
For sure. I think the auto industry is going to be a very, very fast and growing area. I love all the new coming technologies that we're getting. Even within like the next 5 years, capabilities that vehicles are going to have is going to be absolutely amazing. And I definitely want to go into the automotive industry when I graduate.
Good stuff. Hey, look, great talking to the both of you, but we got to go talk to Dan Nicholson from General Motors and find out why they've been sponsoring this.
And although you both are competitors, I wish you both the best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck on this.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Lear Connexus offers a parental controls application with geofencing that sends notifications regarding driving behavior and location, including curfew alerts, acceleration alerts, and speed alerts. All delivered to a smartphone application that includes vehicle location, driver notifications, and a report card of driving history, including notifications when predefined geographic boundaries are crossed. For more information, visit Lear.com.
Dan Nicholson, great to talk to you. You're going to have to tell the audience what your title is, because I remember your old one.
Yeah.
You were the head of all propulsion systems at General Motors.
That's correct, and we've since transformed our whole global product group at General Motors, and since January 1st, I'm the Vice President for Electrification, Controls, Software, and Electronics.
So all this here kind of falls under what you're working on.
Yeah, pretty much at General Motors. So, I mean, it's really tied into our 000 mission for zero emissions, zero congestion, and zero crashes. And a lot of those new technologies are really related to the AutoDrive challenge and what's going on here.
Dan, is General Motors' interest in this to get more young people interested in automotive engineering, or is this a learning experience for General Motors?
A little bit of both, but I would say our primary interest is really building the STEM pipeline. As part of 000, GM is very interested in making sure the next generation of leaders are interested in STEM. And so that drives our interest in a world in motion and our support for that. And AutoDrive Challenge is a great expansion of that. So we need more engineers that are trained in the kind of skills, and what better way to do that than to partner with SAE and be part of AutoDrive Challenge. So that was really our motivation, building the STEM pipeline.
How did the whole program come together? Was this an SAE idea, a GM idea? Talk about how you came up with this.
Yeah, well, we collaborated together. We won't say who's taking credit for the ideas, but it was a natural kind of partnership. And so we entered into discussions with SAE about the idea, and it grew from there. And as you can see, we've got a lot of partners that joined in that are really key to making this happen. One OEM can't do it alone. SAE is a natural partner, and we found lots of other great suppliers and other companies that are interested in this.
And these are companies that perhaps other people in the General Motors organization are working with on a daily basis, and this provides even more learning for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of names when you look at the cars and you drive in and you see who the sponsors are. So some of those are automotive sponsors that we work with and have worked with for a long time. Others are sort of new names to the field because some of the sensors are new, LiDAR sensors and other things, and then the compute platforms are really a big part of this. So Intel Inside is, you'll see their names here, and Intel Inside is part of what's here as well as a lot of other partners. Too many to name. So.
We were talking to Chris Ciuca from SAE at the beginning of the show. One of the things he talked about is some of these universities had to submit proposals that were 500 pages long. I mean, you guys really set the bar. You're not just opening the doors to any university to come in. They got to really be able to get the job done.
Yeah, the application process is really important in picking the right schools. So we wanted to be very fair and objective about who would earn their way into the AutoDrive Challenge, because you can see there's a big commitment from GM and from our sponsors in what we're providing. These Chevrolet Bolts, were provided as part of the challenge, so that represents a big commitment, from our part. So we wanted to make sure we really had universities that were partnered. We didn't require 500 pages, but we did require a significant application. How are we going to do this? How is the university going to support a safe working environment for the students while they're working on AutoDrive? So that's really, really, really important. We had a number of applications, and what you see here were the 8 top universities in the United States and 2 from Canada who we selected.
Now, I'm not going to ask you to name names at all, but I got to believe there were some pretty prestigious universities that didn't make the cut.
Yes, that's true, and I won't name names. We're proud of the ones that are here. I'm personally kind of proud. 2 of the 8 schools are actually I'm an alumni from. Now, that had nothing to do with the selection process. I wasn't involved in the selection, but Kettering University, I'm a proud Kettering alum, and Texas A&M University was where I got my master's in engineering. So those are 2 schools that traditionally do really well in other SAE competitions. So they've built that base, over time. University of Toronto and Waterloo are here from Canada. That's great. Virginia Tech is another school that is involved in a lot of different activities. So it's kind of hard to just kind of jump into AutoDrive if your school doesn't have a pretty significant investment in these kinds of technologies. So
speaking of these technologies, Dan, okay, you've been in the industry for a while.
Yep.
And
thanks for that. So, yeah.
I just want to get a sense, as you look at this, what sort of a transformation do you see the industry going through? I mean, John and I will talk about this and we'll say, oh, this is the biggest that's ever happened since Henry Ford or something. I mean, but from a guy who is, makes his living day in and day out doing this, I mean, tell us what you're seeing.
Yeah, well, the transformation is happening. It's we don't have to talk about it as something that will come. It's here now, and there's incredible things going. That's why we've reorganized at General Motors to better support our 000 mission. We have, for the first time in my organization, all the controls and software together. because we see a lot of synergies, and it's really about integration on the vehicle. All these technologies can't be just standalone technologies. So electrification, autonomous driving, as well as infotainment and connected, they all play together, and that's really what the technology that's helping support and drive the transformation. So it is the most exciting time, and even though I've been in this industry a long time, now is honestly the most exciting time ever. I've enjoyed a long career, but this is actually the most exciting time. Interestingly, when I look back, when I was a Kettering student, as an undergrad, I worked on something that people thought was game-changing and impossible: electronic throttle control. It's actually what I did my fifth-year thesis
which
on.
by today's standards seems like whatever.
Yes, students are like, oh, they didn't always have that. They really don't understand. So what's game-changing and revolutionary at one point in time becomes routine, and that cycle is speeding up and speeding up. But back to AutoDrive and the motivation, we really need great engineers that are trained in order to make that happen. So the STEM pipeline is very, very important. And that needs to start at an early age. We need to make sure we're inspiring curiosity in STEM at an early age in K through 8, and then foster that so they're taking the right classes in high school so that they're prepared in college. And this speeds up the cycle because we're not waiting for them to graduate. We're letting them work on super cool state-of-the-art technology as undergrads, so when they come out, they're prepared to plug into jobs.
And what GM and SAE is doing is fantastic. I think if you look at all of SAE's educational programs, World in Motion, Formula SAE, Baja, this one, you've reached 6 million students.
Yeah.
It's an incredible number.
Yeah, well, thanks. And as you know, I'm currently the chair of the SAE Foundation. We're really proud of everybody that contributes, money to help make that happen, which is really important, to the future of the industry, also to the future of, our country and the world.
Dan, I've got to ask you, in your job, are you seeing it difficult to attract the types of people who are interested in computing and programming and integration to come to the auto industry versus saying, well, maybe I'd like to work out in California for one of those companies? I mean, is there something that you're finding is...
Well, let me answer that maybe in a little more targeted way. Software engineers have tons of choices. Computer scientists have tons of choices. If you can code and write software, you have more choices today than ever. And so people have choices, and people look at work-life balance and where they'd like to live and all kinds of things when making employment decisions. So having said that, we're able to attract talent. It's actually going pretty well for us. Within the space of people that are interested in mobility, General Motors is perceived as one of the best places to work within that. So that's working pretty well for us, but quite frankly, we'd like to make the pie bigger and have a larger pool because these engineering and other STEM are still underrepresented by females and other groups, and we'd like to make the pie a lot bigger because we think if more people knew about it as a career choice, they would really choose it. So if there's any parents watching your show, please encourage your young people to think about STEM careers and talk to them about it because they're really great, exciting careers.
This whole Auto Challenge AutoDrive has got another year to go.
Yeah.
Will you be recruiting out of these teams, do you think?
Yeah. That's not our primary motivation for doing it, but each one of these teams has mentors from the partners, including a lot from General Motors and a lot from my part of the organization. And so that interaction with their mentors, lets them know, what kind of talent we're talking about, and certainly we'd like to feed them into our hiring pipeline. With this kind of undergraduate experience, it's awesome.
So as we're standing here looking at these autonomous bolts, it comes to mind that General Motors with GM Cruise is developing bolts that are autonomous vehicles.
Yep.
Are these mentors gaining any knowledge that perhaps is applicable to the commercial vehicles that you guys are developing for the Cruise automation?
Yeah, I can't really comment too much on it. Honestly, the way the mentors are working with the teams, they're they have boundaries of what they, how much coaching and help they can give. But this whole AutoDrive challenge really kind of recreated some of the early days of, what you see in San Francisco driving at Cruise. So those are Chevrolet Bolts with, LiDAR and other technology. So this competition really kind of recreates some of those early day experiences.
We've asked you a lot of questions. Have we missed anything here?
I don't think so. It's just that General Motors is really committed to zero emissions, zero congestion, and zero crashes. And this is the kind of thing that it really exemplifies our commitment to that. And we're really trying to build a STEM pipeline for the future. But it has to happen not only in university, but before that. So it's never too early to start thinking about STEM careers.
We're good. Dan Nicholson, thanks so much, man. This
Thanks.
is very interesting. Congratulations on the program.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we're good.
The world is changing at an ever-increasing pace. No matter what the mode of transportation, there is always the need for an efficient propulsion system. And that's exactly what BorgWarner has been doing since the earliest days of the automotive industry. We create innovative mobility technologies that reduce energy consumption and emissions while improving performance. Our proven track record has made us an industry leader in forward-looking propulsion solutions for combustion, hybrid, and electric vehicles.
So Gary, final thoughts on the show here?
I'm just blown away by the level of commitment, the enthusiasm that we're seeing, the technology that we're seeing. And these are college students. I don't know what you were doing in college, but I sure as hell wasn't.
No, I wasn't doing anything like this, but man, I sure would have been involved in a team like this had it been available then.
And because it's just not about doing the work. I mean, it's about the camaraderie and the excitement, and you just see these people are just really being energized by one another. And what a great thing this AutoDrive is.
Yeah, well, good. Hope you all enjoyed this program as much as we enjoyed doing it, because this is the kind of program that's really making a difference. John McElroy, Gary Vasilash, signing off. Thanks for tuning in.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, your journey, our passion. Lear, a global leader in automotive seating and electrical systems. And by BorgWarner, propulsion solutions that support a clean, energy-efficient world.
Visit our website, Autoline.tv, where you can watch us live Thursday afternoons. Get your daily fix with Autoline Daily and in-depth analysis and interviews with Autoline This Week. There's all that and much more at Autoline.tv.